It was the kind of wedding that shut down an entire town. Cars lined the streets of Enkay. Silver balloons floated above the gate of the grandiose event hall. The bride, Amanda Nwankwo, walked down the aisle in a custom Vera Wang gown imported from Paris. The groom, Maid Adinuga, was the only son of a wealthy oil magnate, and the headlines had dubbed the union Nigeria's wedding of the year. But somewhere in the back row, hidden behind large floral arrangements and towering hats, sat Nkechi, Amanda's mother. Her Ankara wrapper was faded, and her geli looked like she tied it in a rush. She wasn't given a place in front. Not even a proper introduction. She clapped like everyone else, smiled like everyone else, but her eyes held the weight of memories the guests would never know. She had raised Amanda alone, from the dusty streets of ABA to the classrooms of Covenant University. She sold akara in the mornings, swept classrooms in the afternoons, and mended clothes in the evenings, just so Amanda could have a better life. She had known hunger. Real hunger. The kind that made her tie her stomach with wrapper just so Amanda could eat. But now Amanda was marrying into wealth. Real wealth. With it came a new circle of influence, Lagos socialites, designers, billionaires, ministers' wives. The kind of people who pronounced her name with accents that made it sound foreign. And in her bid to fit in, Amanda erased her past, including her mother. After the wedding, Amanda and Maid moved into a glass mansion in Banana Island, where imported art adorned the walls and the scent of imported candles lingered in every room. 2 months into their marriage, Amanda made a call. "Mummy, I want you to come and stay with me. There's enough space here. I've told my husband about you, and he agrees." Nkechi was shocked and moved. She thought, perhaps, that her daughter had remembered. Maybe it was time for joy, rest, and recognition. So she packed a small bag, boarded a bus, and journeyed to Lagos with trembling hope. The mansion was bigger than anything she had imagined. Marble floors. Swimming pool. Gold-accented stairs. But nothing could prepare her for what happened next. Amanda handed her a uniform. A maid's uniform. "Mummy. Nkechi," Amanda said, struggling to maintain her poise. "We don't want you to just sit around. The staff needs help. You can handle the laundry. It's still better than all those years in ABA, no?" There was silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that screams. Nkechi didn't argue. She simply nodded and walked into the servant quarters. Her hands trembled, but she said nothing. In that moment, a seed of something dark was planted. Not in the mother, but in the house. And soon, it would grow. The days bled into one another like a wound that refused to heal. Nkechi, once the lioness who shielded her daughter from the cruelties of poverty, now folded bedsheets, scrubbed marble tiles, and ironed Amanda's silk blouses in silence. No one in the house addressed her as Mama. She had become the help. Maid hardly acknowledged her presence. He had never truly cared for Amanda's past, and Amanda, desperate to keep up appearances in her new elite circle, erased her mother's story like chalk from a blackboard. One afternoon, Amanda hosted her new friends for brunch, the wives of politicians, oil executives, and expatriates. They floated into the mansion in designer heels, Chanel bags tucked under their arms, speaking in British-infused tones and sipping imported wine. Nkechi was ordered to serve. Dressed in her dull uniform, she moved from one guest to the next, pouring juice and offering pastries. Then she overheard one of them ask, "That maid, she looks vaguely like you, Amanda. Is she family?" Amanda let out a practiced laugh. No. She's from my village. Just someone my family helped once. She begged me to find her work, so we took her in. I couldn't say no. The words hit Momankechi like cold water on bare skin. Her hand shook slightly as she reached for another tray. That night, in the quiet of the servants' quarters, she sat on the thin mattress and wept silently. Not for herself, but for the daughter she no longer recognized. But fate has a strange way of balancing its books. A storm was coming. It started subtly. Maid's business began to suffer. First, a shipment of crude oil was seized due to unpaid tariffs. Then, a contract with a foreign partner fell through due to a corruption probe. Rumors began to spread that the Adenuga Empire was cracking. Amanda noticed first in the tone of her friends' voices, slightly more distant, their messages fewer. Then came the news that their accounts had been frozen for investigation. The mansion that once shimmered with elegance now felt heavy, its silence thicker than ever. And through it all, Momankechi remained. Still quiet. Still humble. Still sweeping the halls of a home that never truly welcomed her. One evening, Amanda caught a glimpse of her mother praying in the small servant's room, her lips moving over words whispered into the dark. For her, Momankechi said softly to the shadows. Even now, I pray for her. But something in Amanda stirred that night, something she couldn't name yet. Because what she didn't know was that the foundation of her new world was about to shatter. And when it did, she would need the very woman she had tried to bury. Amanda's dreams began to unravel like old lace. The gossip blogs picked up the scent first, Adenuga Oil Empire under investigation for fraud. Then the tabloids followed, feeding like vultures on every new scandal. Maid's face was splashed across front pages, his name trending on social media for all the wrong reasons. The once proud heir was now called a spoiled prince with a criminal empire. Bank accounts froze. Friends vanished. Calls went unanswered. Luxury cars were repossessed. The chef resigned. The gardener left. The security guards disappeared one by one. In less than a month, the mansion became a ghostly echo of its former self. Amanda's world, once built on glitter and applause, began to rot at the core. Yet Momankechi remained. She continued to sweep the empty halls, cook small meals with whatever ingredients were left in the pantry, and quietly observe as her daughter paced around the house like a trapped bird. Her face still held softness, but her silence had grown louder. One evening, Amanda sat alone in the cold silence of the living room. Her lace wig undone, her makeup smudged from crying. She stared at her trembling hands. They no longer held power or pride. Momankechi entered quietly, setting down a bowl of hot ogbono soup and EBA on the side table. Amanda didn't look up. "Mama," she said, her voice cracking. It was the first time she'd called her that in months. Maybe years. "I didn't know it could all disappear," Amanda whispered. "I thought, if I looked the part, acted the part, I would finally belong." Momankechi sat beside her, not saying a word. The silence wasn't awkward, it was full of understanding. Amanda slowly broke down, tears spilling freely. "I was ashamed," she confessed. "Not of you, but of what I came from. I thought if I erased it, I would finally be accepted." Momankechi reached for her daughter's hand, weathered skin meeting manicured fingers. "You cannot build a palace by denying the soil that raised you," she said softly. For the first time in years, Amanda listened, truly listened. The next morning, things began to change. Amanda, stripped of luxury, began learning the basic rhythms of life again. She cooked, swept, washed, and slowly reconnected with her mother, not as a servant, but as the woman who had always been her foundation. The mansion was soon seized by the government. They had to move. No more designer shoes or gated luxury. But in a small bungalow on the outskirts of Surulere, they found something far richer than wealth, forgiveness and humility. Yet not everything was healed. Because one day, a letter would arrive. One that carried a message from Maid, now on the run, that would throw Amanda into a new storm. And once again, only one woman could save her. The brown envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning. There was no return address, only Amanda's name scribbled in Maid's signature handwriting. She hesitated to open it, her hands trembling as if the weight of their past was sealed inside. Mom Enkay stood behind her, drying her hands on a faded kitchen towel. "Whatever it is," she said calmly, "read it. You faced worse storms." Inside was a single sheet of paper, a letter that bled desperation. "Amanda. If you're reading this, I'm far gone. I was stupid. Greedy. I thought money made us gods. But now I see I was just a man hiding in golden shadows. They are coming for me. I know it. And there are things I did in your name, money laundered under your signature. If they trace it, they'll come for you too. Run, hide, do whatever you must. But know this, I did love you. Just in the only broken way I knew how. Maid." Amanda sat there frozen, the paper shaking in her hands. Her lips quivered as the weight of those words settled into her bones. I didn't know," she whispered. "I signed papers. He told me they were harmless." Mom Enkay took the letter, read it slowly, and exhaled. Then, in her usual quiet strength, she said, "Then we go to the police. If you keep hiding, you become part of it." Amanda looked up, shocked. "Mama, they'll arrest me." "Then let them. Let the truth speak for itself. It's the only way forward." For the first time, Amanda understood the courage her mother carried, not the kind wrapped in fists or anger, but the kind that survives years of suffering and still stands tall. That day, Amanda turned herself in. It was a scandal that shook what was left of her reputation. But something unexpected happened. As the investigation unfolded, the truth emerged. Amanda had unknowingly signed off on fraudulent transactions, but she had never personally benefited or participated. Charges were dropped. She was free. But she wasn't the same woman who had walked down the aisle in diamonds and arrogance. She was humbled. Quiet. A woman who had seen the hollowness of wealth without honor, and the cruelty of pride. Months later, Amanda launched a foundation for single mothers. She named it the Enkay Project. Not after herself, but after the woman who had washed her shame without resentment. People who visited her modest office in Surulere never believed she was once the bride of Lagos' most lavish wedding. They saw only a woman who smiled with her eyes, served with her hands, and spoke with the weight of wisdom. And every evening, she went home to her mother, not as a maid, not as a burden, but as her anchor. The mansion was gone. The wealth had vanished. But what remained was far more valuable, a mother's love, and a daughter's return to truth. And in that small home, with cracked tiles and the smell of jollof rice in the air, Amanda finally became rich.